Guys, this is going to be a fun one. This is Bo Knows Multifamily. If you don't follow him, give him a follow on YouTube. This guy's fun because he's one of the OGs of content around hotel conversions. Hotel conversions have been around for a while, but he did this 4 years ago. And even today, when I tell people about hotel conversion to apartments, they look at me kind of funny, like that's a thing. So imagine 4 years ago. During COVID, that's when everything started picking up in regards to hotel conversions because the hotels couldn't transact. I mean, you had all these travelers canceling their trips and hotel owners deciding this is too big of a liability. We're going to stop our breakfast. We're going to stop bringing people in or hosting them. It was just a nightmare. So a lot of hotel owners struggled. So this guy made this video a while ago, and it's comprehensive. It's very good. If you don't follow Bo Knows Multifamily, go check him out. Got a great channel. And this is a pretty comprehensive deep dive between the difference of hotels and motels. You've probably ever wondered what's the difference between the two and why it might make sense to convert a hotel. So without further ado, let's chime in and let's tune in and let's see what Bo has to share.
I'm getting a lot of calls from investors wanting to convert motels and hotels to apartments. In this video, we're going to go over why it is a good idea and what to look out for. Let's go. First, let's define the difference between a motel and a hotel. Hotels typically have hundreds of rooms and several different floors. They generally have staircases, elevators, and interior corridors that go to the front doors of the rooms. And extended stay hotels are the ideal conversion prospect because they're typically larger units, 400 to 500 square feet, and they have kitchens. Motels, on the other hand, are typically 1 or 2 floors, and the guests can access the rooms directly from the parking lot. They have open air corridors and staircases and usually only range from 200 to 300 square feet. Most hotels are smaller, older, owner-operated assets that are in secondary or tertiary markets.
Oh, so good. So good. So I tell people when they ask me, what's the difference between a hotel and a motel? A motel is, and this is the easy ways to remember, if you're in a parking lot and you're looking at all the front doors of the rooms of the motel, you're at a motel. It's likely you're at a motel. If you're at a hotel, you have to walk through a lobby, closed corridors. There's additional amenities, and the rooms are larger. So hotels are different from motels, and a lot of times hotels are 2, 3, 4 stories. I've seen them as high as 5, 6 stories. So hotels have a greater appeal to investors than motels do, but that's okay because there's less people buying motels. And we're going to talk about why there are less people buying motels. He's going to say it here in this next line. But just one thing for you to remember, a motel is a building that you see from the parking lot. You see all the doors. But here's why you can buy a motel a lot easier than you can a hotel.
The big hotel brands typically won't put their names on these motels, which is one of the reasons why a lot of motels struggle. Now we'll go over.
I love this. So think Radisson or Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott, Choice. Actually, Choice will put their name on a lot of, but they struggle because they struggle to put their name or their flag, as they call it in the hotel industry, on these buildings because these buildings don't meet their brand standards. You know, today a lot of these brands want 2 to 3 story plus buildings. They want newer, updated, elevated ceilings that are not so low. They don't want asbestos, a carcinogenic mineral that was used in building supplies because of its flame retardant nature. They don't want that in the building. A lot of these old mid-century motels that dot the US and even newer, it doesn't need to be mid-century. It could be 70s, 80s, 90s. There are motels still in that era that just don't qualify. They're just not quite there. And for some reasons, maybe the building itself is just not satisfactory. The reputation could be very poor, or there's there's location issues. Maybe it's in an area that it's just not conducive for a brand to slap their name on it. So there's a lot of variables, and not all that I'll get into right now, but that creates opportunity for you and me. So we have a chance here. Let me scoot in. You guys can see me? All right, here we go. Anyways, excellent stuff, Bo.
For 5 reasons why these conversions to apartments are a good idea. Number 1, lower acquisition price. COVID has caused a lot of disruption in the hotel and motel world that most of these won't be
That's
able
when
to
I got
recover
in.
from, even when the vaccine is fully distributed. This, of course, increases vacancy, it lowers the per night rent stay, and it allows investors to pick up these assets at a reasonable enough price to compensate for the large cost to convert to apartments, or what's also called micro apartments. Number 2 reason it's a good idea to convert: shortage of rental housing. Due to the high cost of home ownership and a bunch of other reasons, we are so far behind in building enough units to keep up with rental demand. And those apartment projects that are being built from the ground up are pricing many of the renters out. Number 3 reason: converting from hotels to apartments is a heck of a lot faster than building from the ground up.
Okay, so I gotta make a comment on this. I'll talk about the speed, and I'll also talk about the fact that we're still behind on housing. Like, we are still behind on housing. In fact, with this economic crunch, and right now, the current event of the hour is, SNAP benefits have basically ran out of funds due to the filibuster right now between the Republicans and the Democrats. Interestingly enough, affordable housing is actually going to become more and more and more a thing, more popular. In fact, hotel conversions and adaptive reuse projects are going to become even more important because cost of building from the ground up is abhorrent. It's going to be wild, and the timing for this is unreal. Some cities and municipalities take forever to go through the approval process. Plus, they don't even know what they're doing. Some do. Some should hire some outside help to push these projects through, because we need more adaptive reuse projects. We need housing. We need to take these offices or these hotels, and we need to make them housing, turn them into housing. And the cost of goods or materials and labor is climbing. On top of that, technology is catching up. We just saw Neo, the robot, right? That new release of the humanoid robot. Mark my words. I know a lot of people. It's funny. I actually mentioned this like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, probably when this video came out, that robots would be doing a lot of the work that we're doing, and people looked at me like I was nuts. Well, look, it's happening. You could pick one up for $20K. Pretty soon, your hotels will be full of these robots. And I'm just going to remind you that Indians, from India, they're the wealthiest ethnic group in America, and they're also the majority owner of all of these hotels and motels. So you're going to start seeing, I guarantee you, they will have no problem financing or funding or buying these robots to clean up all these rooms, change beds, and the robots will get better. This will get easier. You'll see drywall installation and construction robot. I mean, you will. Mark my words. I'm not even afraid to say that now. Whereas before there was some trepidation, like, it could happen. Maybe. No. It will. It will. They're coming after every single trade. And I don't care if you say, well, plumbers, electrician, every trade will be replaced by robots. But that being said, if that's the case, if technology is catching up so darn fast, think about the implications. Think about how much cheaper your conversion cost would be rather than building from the ground up. You're going to see medical plazas being turned into residential. You'll see offices, more and more office buildings turned into residential. And before you say, wait, offices are hard because plumbing lines are not, easily identifiable and they're very few and far between. It's not going to matter. The infrastructure is there. You can add plumbing, you can add stacks, you can add waste lines, and your cost of labor should be reduced over time due to these robots. Anyways, it will be a bigger deal. I'm telling you, adaptive reuse and this hotel conversion thing is going to be a bigger and bigger deal as we get further into the century, I should say. So Anyways, yeah, and it's a lot faster. He's gonna say, and I've seen this video obviously already, but he's gonna say something crazy like, "It only takes 6 months." No, it takes a lot longer than that. You got municipality, red ribbon or red tape you gotta cut, and you gotta some fiery hoops that you gotta jump through. So I disagree there, but, anyways, we'll keep listening.
Most of these conversions, depending on the zoning hurdles, can take under 6 months to complete. New construction of apartments can easily take 18 months plus from planning to delivery. Number 4, apartments are more stable than motels on the cash flow, which allows them to get better capital and trade lower on the cap rates when they go to sell in the future. And number 5, converted projects can deliver fully renovated units, oftentimes up to 20% below comparable rental units, and smoke the competition.
That's wild. That's wild that you can perform at a lower rate and still smoke the competition and increase your occupancy and still be profitable as a multifamily owner of a converted building. That's wild. This is the opportunity, guys. It's not like this ship sailed. No, we're just getting started. There was this peak, during COVID, I'd say. So COVID happened 2021, 2022. Things got really excited for exciting for hotel conversions. Really exciting. 2022, everyone was like, "Yeah, this is so great." 2023, it was on fire. 2024, you started seeing it wane because rates shot up through the roof. 2025, obviously, it's been a slow year for many people, but we're just getting started. Don't you worry. In the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, adaptive reuse hotel conversions are going to become a bigger and bigger deal. Okay. I kind of beat that dead horse, so I'll lay off.
Okay, now let's quickly go over 10 things to look out for when you're doing hotel to apartment conversions. Number 1, this is going to be a change of use, which means there's going to be building code changes and zoning changes. It's the very first thing you want to find out before you even get involved. If the respective planning department isn't going to allow the zoning or use change, move on. Number 2, you want to make sure the location is really good. Duh. But think about it. If a motel or hotel isn't doing well, it's oftentimes not doing well because it's in a bad location. No matter how cheap you can pick up the hotel for, if the location doesn't work for long-term renters, move on. Number 3, most hotels are set up as either studios or one bedrooms. And if the market is calling for more studios and one bedrooms, great. But most markets really also like to have 2 bedrooms. And depending on the construction and the location of structural components, that might not be possible or cost prohibitive.
Okay, we got to talk about this. So first, you talked about municipality. Make sure that the planning and zoning departments are going to work with you. Many won't, which is wild. These are not entrepreneurs that are in. Most of them are, at least, that are in government, and they just love to have that power, and they love to just waste your time and your money. So a lot of them will say no. It's happened to me. Anyways, I'll talk about that in a different video, but it can be wildly difficult because of the opinions and the personalities of your government there, the local government. Even if you're following all the rules, doesn't matter if they want to be difficult, they will be. Your tenant profile. You need to make sure that your tenant profile is willing to lease spaces like this. If I'm in the middle of, no name Texas, for example, where population's 1,000, people probably don't really want to live in a converted motel hotel. They have options, or they're not going to live there. If the majority of your tenant profile is living on a farm or living in a home, then it would not be wise to convert a hotel into an apartment complex or apartment community. And you need to take a look at what unit mixes are trading in that market. If you have an apartment community market rather, that on average trades at a 6 cap, which capitalization rate is how we distinguish the value of the building based on the rental income. And the majority of these buildings are 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and 1 bedroom, 1 bath. I would say majority are 1 bed, 1 bath. with maybe a third or one fourth, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. That's typically the winning solution or the winning mix on unit mix. If that's the majority and you're going to convert this motel or this hotel, I'm not saying you're out of the woods, but you need to be careful because you really need to think about your end buyer. Who's your end buyer? Don't go into a deal thinking you're going to sell it by, hopes and prayers. No, you need to have data. Well, there was a 40 unit, all efficiencies, all which means studios, right? No one bedrooms. These are all just one area and a bathroom and a kitchen, but there's no separate bedroom. Maybe there was a recent sale. All 40, studios or efficiencies sold, and it sold to a buyer, and it sold quickly, and it sold for top dollar, and it sold at a cap rate that was almost equivalent to some of the other buildings out there that are multifamily. Okay, now you have some data. But don't just go into a market hoping, okay, well, everybody wants to buy, 150 studios. No, they don't. In fact, that'll be a very hard sell. So maybe taking your 150 studios, even reducing them down to 125 studios, and 25 of them are 1 bed, 1 bath. See, that's cool. 1 bed, 1 bath. 25 of them, and the rest are efficiencies. Or you can condense it even further, have 75, maybe all of them are 1 bed, 1 bath. So, but the numbers and the economics have to work. And we'll talk about that in another video. I'm building a calculator for people who want to convert motels or hotels. And that'll be very helpful for you so you're not fudging with really complex spreadsheets that nobody really wants to open up. So anyways, you have a lot to consider here before you even touch the building.
Number 4, bathrooms can be challenging if you're looking to combine units or add bedrooms. If a hotel is 2 or more stories, typically they're built so that bathrooms are stacked on top of each other for plumbing and venting purposes. So if bathrooms have to be added or moved, the challenge is lining them up and the associated cost.
Almost never have to move bathrooms. There's no reason to move bathrooms. I mean, there may be, but you want to give yourself very few reasons to move a bathroom. Can you imagine taking a stack, which I'm going to just say a waistline plumbing stack is your typical 3 or 4 inch ABS or black pipe where all the poo poo goes? You don't want to move that. And that's in a floor. That floor could be made of cement, or if it's older, it could be wood if it's on a second floor. You don't want to move that around. And especially on the ground floor, you don't want to move around because anytime you have to move permanent apertures, that's added costs. And I'm talking exorbitant costs that you honestly can't afford if you're looking for a certain ROI.
Biggest challenge in conversions is typically the kitchens. If they already have full-size kitchens with full-size appliances, sure makes it easier, but that usually isn't the case. And you'll definitely want to have full-size kitchens so you or your end buyer can get institutional financing through Fannie and Freddie, and that's one of their requirements. The number 6 thing.
Bingo. If I had a ringer, ding, 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 ding. Okay, Freddie, Fannie, money. Okay, money. A lot of people buy these and they convert these buildings knowing that the cap rate is lower on a multifamily exit, and they force appreciation through renovation, and then they stabilize the building. They prove the model. They fill it up. They get marketing teams to fill it up and lease it all up. And then they get financing from a Freddie or Fannie loan, which is, government-backed loan, which offer a product of 80% LTV. And I gotta look at the different terms that they offer today or what's available, but 80% LTV. LTV is loan to value. 80%. So let's say the new value, let's say you bought the building for $1 million. You put in $1 million in it. And let's say it's worth now $3.5 million. Well, what's 80% of $3.5 million? You're going to come out with some cash in your pocket when you refinance. See, that's the beauty of this whole deal. The whole structure is awesome because you're taking an asset that would not be valued nearly as well as a multifamily asset, and then you're going to collect that back end arbitrage spread. Oh, it's beautiful. And guess what? That's tax-free because that's a loan. That's a cash back or cash out refi. And that goes back in your pocket and your investor's pocket. and you can recap even later when you do it again and again and again. So in theory, it's beautiful. Execution, totally different story, and there's a lot of dependencies, like appraisals need to be just right. Your management needs to be just right. Your conversion, your municipality, so many stars have to align for you to get there. But there's ways to reduce all those risk factors along the way.
To be aware of is amenities. Many hotels will have amenities that don't make sense for apartments, like commercial kitchens, big meeting or conference rooms, the laundry facilities that the staff uses to wash his towels with, restaurants and bars. Some popular apartment amenities to replace these hotel amenities are larger gyms, game. I'm getting a lot of calls from investors wanting to convert motel the hotel for if the location doesn't work for long-term components that might not be possible or cost prohibitive. Number 4, bathrooms can be challenges. So if bathrooms have to be added or moved, this sure makes it easier, but that usually is financing through Fannie and Freddie, and many hotels will have amenities that don't make sense for apartments, like commercial kitchens, big meeting or conference rooms, the laundry facilities that the staff uses to wash his towels with, restaurants and bars. Some popular apartment amenities to replace these hotel amenities are larger gyms, game rooms, 24-hour clubhouses, one-room home office rentals by the tenants. You could add additional units, a movie room, study areas, and converting conference or meeting rooms into climatized storage units.
So that's awesome. This guy's got quite the imagination, and I'll tell you, all of that matters. But you have to think about who you're competing with. So if you're building a conversion and you're trying to compete with an A-class multifamily asset, you're not going to do it. So don't try to compete with the A-class multifamily asset. The amenities that most of your apartment complexes will, honestly, it'll drive revenue for you are your gyms, your grass or green area, having a dog park, as silly as that sounds. Everybody has a pet nowadays. I don't know what your thoughts are on pets, but if you're watching this and you're a landlord and you're anti-pet, just know that that's going to become more and more popular and harder to ignore. Okay. Having a putt-putt, adding or keeping the pool. We had another video where we said, hey, get rid of the pool. I think there's an opportunity to keep the pool, but make the pool area sexier, make it nice, make it really cool. And there's ways to do that. Remember, you're trying to draw eyes. You're trying to make your tenant feel that they can live there. They can be at home there without jacking up your costs. One thing that's really popular right now are pickleball courts, and they're generally not expensive to install. If you have extra space and you have the dimensions of a pickleball court that you can add, it's not a bad idea to add one, because that is marketing that will set you apart. I would also look around in your local market. Find out what amenities are popular in your multifamily, in your A class, B class. Take a look between the two classes. What are they doing? Do they have gyms? How nice are the gyms? Or are they just treadmills? Do they have pickleball courts? If they don't, that's where you can compete and you can be a little different. In another episode, we'll talk about how you can differentiate yourself from other competitors if you're converting, because remember, you were a motel or hotel and you could still have those benefits, which, we'll talk about. There's a lot to talk about in there, but amenities matter. You can also make sure that your amenities, you can ensure that, not sure what I was going to say about that. Anyways, let's keep going.
Number 7, fire sprinklers. Many of the motels under old building codes don't have fire sprinklers, and the change of use is going to require them. From my research, fire sprinklers are running anywhere from $2 to $7 a square foot of sprinklered area. So if you had 80 units at 400 square feet each, that's 32,000 square feet times $5 a square foot is $160,000 or $2,000 a unit just for fire sprinklers. The number
Yeah. In fact, this will be your one of your most expensive line items for your capex, your fire sprinklers. I've seen folks pay anywhere from $1,500, which I think is low per unit, all the way up to $4,000 a unit, a door, which is, oh my goodness, incredible. Like that's such a high price. And some of these areas in the U.S. that are a little more difficult to get any approvals done. I'll let you read between the lines. Wink, wink. Actually, I did my eyebrows. Wink, wink. There we go. Those are going to be more expensive. You're going to look at an average of $2,000 a unit, maybe 2,500. I know that seems so high, but that's just the reality of it. You have so much involved. You have the riser rooms. You have engineering. You have actually running a load test on your water, which your engineer will do, and ensuring that you have enough supply, ensuring that you have spaces. If you have multiple wings, each riser room needs to represent one wing. You can't have one major riser room. In most jurisdictions, in some that they'll let you do that. Again, I'm not an engineer and I don't know your market, but this could honestly wreck your deal if you don't factor. I factored $2,500 a unit. I know it's high per, and I usually get it lower, but that's the reality of these conversions is those fire sprinklers, because it's now residential. You're considering this residential, plus you're going to be cooking in there. You cook using a stove. A stove could get hot and things could go on fire. So that's why you have to have fire sprinklers. I mean, you're telling the city that you want to rezone and be granted the rezoning, you want to get it approved. Well, how could you do that if you're not acting as a residential property? You don't look the part. So real quick on full kitchens. You need a full kitchen. What's a full kitchen? He said this, and Bo, thank you for explaining and expressing full kitchens. A full kitchen is not a microwave and a fridge, a mini fridge. That's not a full kitchen. A full kitchen is going to have a heating element where you can cook. It's going to have a sink. And sometimes, depending on the lender, it needs to have a sink that is actually residential standard 30-inch wide sink. Like you need a sink, okay? Not just a micro sink or mini sink. I've seen people get away with smaller sinks on loans. You can, but you need a sink. Stone countertops or a very nice Formica, right? You don't want to build Section 8 housing here. Maybe you do, but build something nice because you want to sell it, right? You got to get out of the deal. You can't stay in this deal forever. You got to sell it. And add your microwave, full-size fridge, which we talked about in a previous episode. Full-size fridges give your resident a feeling of, this is where I'm going to bed down for the next 4 or 5, 6 months, maybe a year. I can live here long term, even if it's 300 square feet, whatever, full-size fridge. People don't want to have to refill up a fridge. It's only this big, okay? Anyways, good stuff. I'm going to actually end it right here, guys. This will be part 1. This will be a 2-part video. I'm already deep into this. I feel like I've been talking about this for a while. Again, I want to invite you to go follow Bo Meets Multifamily and give him a like and subscribe. If you haven't liked and subscribed my channel, please do so. And if you're interested in having a strategy call, book a strategy call with me. There's a link below that will take you directly to a strategy call booking calendar where you can set it up on your own, on your accord when you're available. And let's talk. Let's talk about your motel, your hotel. Let's talk about one that's in the city that you're looking at. Maybe there's one that you are interested in checking out and you're excited about it and you just want to talk about it. Let's talk. It's totally free. That way you can gain some clarity and get some insight. And I can help you. I can even give you freebies along the way. So if you want a market checklist as well, I do have that. Please reach out to me. Also book a call and we can have a strategy call. Guys, thanks for watching. This is part 1 of the 2-part reaction video series of Bo Meets Multifamily Hotel Conversion to Apartments. Excited to share part 2 as well, and have a wonderful night or day.